The beginning, innocent love. I met Rishabh during the monsoon of my first year in college. He was older, with a voice smooth like the rain and eyes that always seemed to carry a secret. People warned me about him, said he wasn't the type to stay loyal, but I laughed it off. When he looked at me, really looked, I felt seen in a way no one else had ever managed. That kind of gaze is addictive, especially when you've spent most of your life feeling invisible. I wasn't popular, not someone boys usually noticed. But Rishabh did. He'd wait for me outside class, bring me coffee with my name scribbled in messy hearts, and send long messages at night, asking about my dreams. It felt like something from a movie, the kind where the girl who always watched from the sidelines finally got her moment. We started meeting more often. Libraries turned into long walks. Walks turned into holding hands under flickering streetlights. He had this effortless charm that made even the smallest moments feel cinematic. He spoke of music and love like they were intertwined, and when he played guitar for me, I genuinely thought I was falling into something real. He called me his world, said I made him want to change. I believed every word. My friends were cautious. "You barely know him," one said. "He's always with different girls," another whispered. But I didn't care. He chose me. I saw what they didn't, his soft side, the way his voice dipped when he talked about his childhood, his fractured relationship with his parents. We were both broken in our own quiet ways, and I thought that made us fit better. One evening, he asked me to come over to his place. "Just to watch something," he said. "My mom's out of town." I hesitated, not because I didn't trust him, but because I was nervous. It would be the first time I'd be alone with him in that way. But I wanted to be closer to him. I wanted to show him that I was serious about us. His apartment was simple, but filled with the scent of his cologne and some cheap room freshener. We laughed over old movies, his arm casually draped around my shoulder. When he kissed me, it was gentle, patient, like he knew I was scared. That night, he didn't push for more. Instead, he held me like he had all the time in the world. I left that evening with a smile that lingered for days. It felt like love. Deep, raw, and rare. But even then, hidden under the sweetness of his affection, there were moments, flickers in his eyes, half-finished sentences, that whispered of something darker. Something I wasn't ready to hear. And yet, I kept coming back. The first betrayal, lust over love. The second time I visited Rishabh's apartment, the atmosphere felt different. Charged, restless. He opened the door with the same smile, but something in his eyes was colder, distant. I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe he'd just had a bad day. Inside, music blared louder than usual, bass thumping through the walls. There were two unfamiliar pairs of shoes by the door. Before I could ask, he said, "My friends are hanging out for a bit. Hope you don't mind." I hesitated, caught off guard. "You didn't mention anyone else coming." He laughed it off. "Relax, baby. They'll be gone soon. Come sit." His friends, both guys, sat sprawled across the couch, beers in hand. They looked me over too long, their smiles making my skin crawl. Rishabh introduced me like a prize. "This is her. The one I told you about." They exchanged glances, something silent passing between them that I didn't yet understand. I wanted to leave. My instinct screamed it. But then Rishabh pulled me to his side and kissed my cheek, whispering, "Stay."
For me. So I did.
The conversation was crude, the jokes laced with double meanings. I didn't laugh. I shrank into myself, trying to make eye contact with Rishabh, hoping for some reassurance. He just grinned and poured more drinks. Eventually, one of the guys nudged him. "Go on, bro, show us." "Show what?" I asked, heart pounding. Rishabh stood slowly, his smile tightening into something unfamiliar. "Just a game," he said, reaching for me. "You trust me, right?" Something broke in me at that moment, a fracture between who I thought he was and who he'd become right before my eyes. But I froze, torn between fear and love, between running and staying. I didn't understand the rules of this game, but I played along, too afraid to push back. The room blurred after that. Laughter. Hands that weren't his. My voice, cracking under the weight of disbelief. And Rishabh, watching. Just watching. When it was over, I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking. He came over, wrapped an arm around me like nothing had happened. "Don't cry," he said softly. "It's just how things are. You're special. You can handle it." I didn't speak. My body was present, but my spirit had fractured into silence. Later, as I walked home alone, something inside me screamed that this wasn't love. But then his message arrived.
"I'm sorry. I don't know what got into me."
"I love you. Please come back." I stared at the screen, tears blurring the words. I should have blocked him. I should have erased every memory. But instead, I typed 3 words that sealed my fate. "I forgive you." After that night, I told myself it was an isolated mistake. That love, real love, was messy and sometimes painful. Rishabh apologized again and again, said he was drunk, that his friends pushed him into it, that he hated himself for letting it happen. He cried on a voice note, told me I was the only one who ever made him feel human. And I believed him. Because the alternative, that I had given myself to someone who never saw me as anything more than an object, was too unbearable to accept. But the second time happened only weeks later. He said his friends were over again, just for a little fun. He used the same tone he once used to whisper sweet nothings. But there was nothing tender about the way he guided me inside, locked the door behind me, and let the same shadows return. This time, he didn't even pretend to feel bad. I left that night with bruises on my skin and none on his conscience. Still, I went back. The cycle became routine. Each time I told myself it would be different. Each time I walked into his apartment hoping to find the boy who once sang to me under moonlight, and each time I was met with the man who passed me around like a possession. I became a ghost in my own life, smiling at friends, attending lectures, laughing when I had to, but numb inside. He never threatened me outright. He didn't need to. He knew I loved him. That was enough. He used my affection like a weapon, twisting it until I couldn't distinguish love from abuse. I tried once to talk to him seriously,
To ask why. To plead.
His response chilled me more than silence would have. "You think I'd be with a girl like you if you weren't useful?" Then he smiled almost gently. "You know your place. Just don't forget it." That night, I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. And yet when he called the next day, saying he missed me, that he needed me, I went back. Not because I trusted him, but because I no longer trusted myself. What terrified me most wasn't him. It was me. How easily I'd surrendered my worth. How thoroughly I'd let him rewrite the definition of love. And still, I clung to a fantasy. That maybe one day he would wake up and realize I was enough. That he would tell his friends to stay away. That he would look at me like he once did in the beginning, with softness, with care, with real affection. But deep down, I knew that version of Rishabh had never truly existed. He was a mirage. And I was lost in the desert, chasing shadows with bleeding feet. The turning point wasn't dramatic. There was no screaming, no final confrontation. Just silence, a cold, heavy kind that settled in my chest one morning when I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the girl staring back. She looked hollow. I had stopped seeing my friends. I ignored calls from my parents. My grades had slipped. My smile, once soft and effortless, had become something I rehearsed in front of bathroom mirrors. And still, he kept calling. Kept sending messages like venom wrapped in ribbons. One day, a girl from another department approached me after class. I didn't know her, but she knew me. Her voice was quiet, careful. "You're with Rishabh, right?" she asked. I nodded. She looked at me for a long time before she spoke again. "He did the same thing to my friend last year. She had to transfer schools to get away from him." It hit like a thunderclap, confirmation of what I'd refused to believe. I wasn't special. I wasn't chosen. I was just another name on a list of girls he had broken. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in the darkness of my room and let the truth settle in like dust. Rishabh didn't love me. He never had. He loved control. He loved what I gave without resistance, my body, my silence, my devotion. And I was done giving. I blocked his number. Deleted every photo, every message. I unfollowed him everywhere. My hands trembled the whole time, but I kept going. I wasn't just erasing him from my phone, I was cutting him out of my life. The next few weeks were hard. Some mornings I wanted to go back. Not to him, but to the illusion. I missed the version of him I had built in my mind. The boy who loved me. The boy who never existed. I started journaling. I walked more. I talked to my cousin about everything, and instead of judgment, I found comfort. Healing wasn't linear, but for the first time, I was moving. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, I stood on the rooftop of my building, watching the world in motion. I breathed deeply, feeling the weight begin to lift. It didn't vanish, but it shifted, became something I could carry without breaking. I whispered to myself, not for anyone else, but for the girl I used to be. You were never the problem. You were just too kind in a world that rewarded cruelty. I don't tell this story for pity. I tell it so no girl ever thinks silence is strength. That being used is love. That pain is the price for companionship. If you're where I was, lost, scared, clinging to someone who tears you apart, please know this. You can leave, and you will survive.